Hello, my name is Paul Stevers, and I'm going to introduce you to an opportunity for large-scale food production with indoor farms powered by energy that is generated without CO2 emissions. This solution is a paradigm shift for growing food that can be scaled globally. There is a large and growing problem in the agricultural sector. Traditional commercial farming methods are not expected to adequately feed all the people in the world in the coming decades. The world population is rising quickly, and available arable land is declining due to multiple factors including climate change. There are several drawbacks to traditional commercial farming, including that it depletes the organic matter in the soil. The food produced often contains pesticide and herbicide residues, which is not healthy for the consumer. As well, natural habitats such as rainforests are being destroyed to create more land for farming, which is dramatically reducing species diversity. As a result, there is a need to transform the industry as soon as possible. The solution to this problem are automated indoor crop growing systems such as vertical farms that are powered by clean energy. A vertical farm is essentially a computer-controlled crop growing system that includes automated product handling and lighting. It enables multiple crop rotations and allows for customized growing environments for different species. As well, the method of farming allows for crops to be grown without pesticides or herbicides. The entire system can be powered by a range of energy sources that do not generate CO2 emissions. There are many benefits to vertical farming. For example, greater than 90% of the water is saved when growing crops in these farms compared to traditional commercial farming. As well, a small fraction of land is needed to produce the same amount of food, often less than 10% depending on the crop. The food grown is more healthy and tasty. Since the food is grown in vertical farms can be grown organically without pesticides or herbicides, this food does not contain residues of these chemicals. As well, there is no reported bacterial contamination such as E. coli in the food grown by these farms. Since the amount of land needed by these farms is relatively small, they can be located in or near cities, which reduces transportation costs and the associated carbon emissions. There is a growing range of substantial energy sources that do not generate CO2 emissions. This includes the well-known renewable energy sources such as wind and solar farms. As well, there are now hydrocarbon-fueled power plants that are being combined with carbon capture and storage systems. Lastly, there is a hydrogen production process that can be implemented in existing or depleted oil and gas fields that leaves the CO2 in the ground. When hydrogen fuel is converted to energy, it does not produce any carbon emissions. On the next slide, I will outline a very encouraging new development in the area of carbon capture. There is a recently developed breakthrough technology that enables 100% carbon capture in a power plant fueled by natural gas at a relatively very low cost. It is based on the award-winning alum vent cycle, which includes the following processes. First, it burns natural gas with pure oxygen. Then the resulting CO2 is cycled through a combustor turbine, heat exchanger, and compressor, creating relatively low-cost power with zero carbon emissions. The captured CO2 is pipeline ready and can either be sequestered or sold to medical, agricultural, and/or industrial sectors. The next slide includes an animated video segment about this new type of natural gas-fueled power plant.
Net Power uses supercritical CO2 instead of steam to produce power. Natural gas is combusted with hot, recuperated CO2 and oxygen, preventing NOx production. Burning with oxygen, known as oxycombustion, is typically uneconomic because oxygen is expensive to produce. Net Power overcomes this problem by recuperating the majority of the produced CO2 into the combustor, dramatically lowering oxygen requirements. The resulting working fluid of high-pressure CO2 and water is expanded through a turbine and then cooled in a heat exchanger. Water is removed, and the remaining nearly pure carbon dioxide stream is compressed and pumped back to high pressure. Excess pipeline-ready CO2 is exported before the working fluid is reheated in the heat exchanger and returned to the combustor. This breakthrough process produces low-cost electricity, eliminates water consumption, and is emissions-free.
The hydrogen production facilities can be located in many existing or depleted oil and gas fields around the world. These facilities produce hydrogen at low cost from these fields and leave the carbon dioxide in the ground. This provides for a continuous, low-cost clean energy source for indoor growing systems. Companies seeking to implement this hydrogen production process can purchase a license from the developer of this technology. Automated indoor growing systems are available in a range of configurations, such as the multi-level vertical farm designed by iFarm from Helsinki, Finland. Each of these can be remotely monitored and controlled. The next two slides show animated videos that illustrate the hydrogen production process in vertical farming. The first one is called Hygienic Earth Energy by Proton Technologies from Calgary, Alberta in Canada, and the other is a concise summary about vertical farming by Joe Picenti from Dallas, Texas.
Just what we need, when and where it is needed. Which brings us back to the heating and extraction technologies used to produce hygienic earth energy. Many different techniques can be used to heat a hydrocarbon reservoir. One typical approach is to install oxygen injection wells and use these wells to pump oxygen-enhanced air into the reservoir. Laterals can be used to spread the oxygen over a large area. Ox injection wells are paired with one or more hygeneration wells. In this example, each hygeneration well terminates just below the cap rock. Again, laterals can be used to increase coverage. Next, a downhole membrane, called a hygenerator, is inserted into the heel of the hygeneration well. In this example, the membrane is a thin palladium-copper alloy with multiple chambers, encased in ceramic, a palladium sandwich. The ox injection and hygeneration wells can now start to work as a system. Oxygen is pumped and cycled into the lower zones of a reservoir, typically 1 or 2 kilometers underground. Combustion occurs instantly as the oxygen combines with a small percentage of the coke. This is called in situ or in-place combustion and is a technique commonly used to warm oil and enhance oil recovery. However, hygienic earth energy is not about oil recovery. Instead, temperatures are allowed to rise much higher, above 700 degrees Celsius. A chain of chemical reactions occurs as the heat and pressure rip apart both the hydrocarbon and water molecules. Synthetic gases are produced, including masses of trapped carbon dioxide, hydrogen gas, and oxygen. The extra oxygen helps sustain the in situ combustion. The hydrogen gas is slippery and buoyant and slowly floats upward, pooling under the cap rock. The hygeneration well then pulls the hydrogen protons to the surface, while the hygenerator excludes carbon dioxide and all the other gases, operating like a selective filter at nanometer scale. Once extracted, the pure hydrogen is stored and then distributed as a clean and green source of energy.
Up next is the animated video about vertical farming.
In order to make growing crops possible under these conditions, 4 key components must be considered. Number 1, the physical layout. Number 2, the lighting. Number 3, the growing medium. And number 4, the sustainability features. First off, the primary goal of vertical farming is to maximize the space available by producing more food per square meter than your standard farm is capable of. And this is why the physical layout of the farm is so important. Currently, most practicing vertical farms will either grow on normal horizontal planes that are stacked vertically, or will grow plants on vertical planes stretching upwards. This allows vertical farmers to make greater use of the space they have and produce many times more the amount of crops than a typical farmer would with just a single plane available. Secondly, and probably the most important component of vertical farming, is the lighting. Most often, vertical farming is performed in areas where little if any natural light exists, and a necessary light source is required in order to stimulate the growth of plants by emitting the necessary electromagnetic spectrum required for photosynthesis to occur. Incredible advances in LED light technology have enabled vertical farms to become what they are today. Although expensive, the price for LED lights used in vertical farming has come down dramatically, while the efficiency has greatly increased. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, over the last decade, the price of a typical LED light has fallen to below $10 per bulb, and their useful lifetime is now nearly 50,000 hours, or nearly 6 full years running continuously. This, coupled along with the low amount of heat emitted from the lights, creates the perfect environment to stimulate plant growth. And as a result, modern LEDs are making it possible for vertical farms to become profitable and greatly increase the variety of their crops. Adding on to this, the pink or purple color often seen in vertical farming, although does look cool, is not only there just for looks. This distinctive color is linked to the overall operational efficiency of using no more energy than is required. You may know that light emitted from the sun that is white is actually just a combination of all the different wavelengths in the visible light spectrum. But what you may not have heard is that although plants need light to grow, they actually just require a few of these wavelengths. Studies have shown that red and blue light specifically can cause a plant to grow at its best, and by limiting unnecessary light spectrums, further energy efficiency can be achieved. The next important component is what is known as the growing medium. While all vertical farms come in different shapes and sizes, each farm will typically use one of 3 soil-free systems for delivering nutrients to plants in order for them to grow. The first of which is known as hydroponics. Hydroponics, which is actually the most common growing medium in all of vertical farming, works by submerging the plant's roots into a nutrient-rich water solution that can be circulated and monitored for the correct composition throughout the growth of the plant. This method requires no soil whatsoever and allows for an incredible amount of water conservation, as the water, other than what is actually being used by the plant, can be reused over and over again. Additionally, this method is easy to scale, as additional rows of crops can be added along with a supporting infrastructure to disperse the nutrient-rich water to the overall vertical farming system. The next method, aeroponics, uses a very unique method of farming that involves no soil, sunlight, or even direct water. This method was first pioneered by NASA in order to grow crops in space, and it involves frequently spraying crops with a nutrient-based mist. Although still somewhat rare to find in the vertical farming world, this method can reduce water usage by as much as 90%, and it has been proven that plants using this method may intake more minerals and vitamins, making them even healthier to consume. And finally, the last growing method is what is known as aquaponics. Aquaponic farming takes the basic hydroponic system one step further and combines both plants and fish together in the same ecosystem. In this system, fish will be grown in indoor ponds that then produce nutrient-rich waste. This waste can then be fed to the plants, which in turn filter and purify this wastewater before it is finally recycled back to where it all started. This cycle happens over and over again, creating a highly productive and balanced ecosystem. However, it is not often used due to the additional complexity. Using systems like these, indoor vertical farming can truly become a sustainable system that can greatly increase the amount of food available for the entire planet.
There are additional profitable uses of these systems. For example, when carbon capture systems are utilized, excess CO2 can be sold to medical, agricultural, and industrial sectors. If and when hydrogen production process is utilized, excess hydrogen can be sold for a wide range of uses, including powering trucks to transport goods. The same indoor crop growing system that grows food can also be used to grow seedlings to support large-scale reforestation. In conclusion, traditional commercial farming methods are not expected to adequately feed all the people in the world in the coming decades. This is mainly due to the rapid population growth and decline of arable land. Food can now be produced on a large scale in indoor growing systems such as multi-level vertical farms. vertical farms can be powered by energy sources that do not generate CO2 emissions, which include renewable energy plants, hydrocarbon-fueled power plants that are combined with carbon capture systems, and hydrogen production facilities that are located in existing or depleted gas and oil fields. As well, companies around the world can license the processes needed to generate the carbon emission-free energy and purchase indoor growing systems to grow the food on a very large scale. Thank you for taking the time to view this video. If you're interested in more information, please visit climatesan.org/CEF. Thank you.